Hi everyone, Tim from Classic Register. Today we're having a look at the rear panel removal on a Mercedes C140 coupe. Right, so first thing you want to do is remove this sill protector. And the way to do it is get your fingers underneath and pull up all the way along. It'll pop out at several points. There are several plugs in this. So once you've got it loose, all you really need access to is this end here, where the door seal is, so you'll be able to take that off, because we need to get that off in order to access the rest of the panel. So the next step is to remove the 3 screws that are here on this end chrome cap. Once all 3 screws are removed, you'll be able to take off the chrome cap end. Might be a little bit sort of stuck with the rubber. You'll be able to gently ease it out of its position. So the next step is to lift up or lift out and remove this rear seat base, and that can be done with the 2 red tabs that are underneath the seat, by pushing those outwards and lifting the seat up. Once you've removed the base seat cushion, you'll have access to a 10mm bolt underneath, and this bolt, once you release that, that'll allow you to take out the top half of the seat. When you're removing this top part of the seat, what you need to remember is that you're not going to be able to take this off unless you have the headrests folded down. Now, I had the problem, my headrest motors are electric, and unfortunately this particular seat had the headrest jammed in the up position, which meant I had to actually take the headrest off in order to remove the top of the seat. So once the bolt at the base of the seat has been removed, it's simply a matter of lifting the seat back up and it will slide off like so. Very simple. So the next task is to take the screw out of the base here, which connects the side panel. Now, by the time you get to this point, you're probably thinking, well, where are the rest of the screws to take out the door panel? The next step is to actually take out this leather insert panel here. And the way to do it is get a blunt sort of instrument like this sort of cake lifter we've got here. And you want to stick it in. I found this particular location right here in the corner best. Use an old bit of cloth or something up against the edge to place the blunt item in there and sort of pop out or push out this insert panel. Once you've got one of the clips out, as you can see here, this is starting to come off. You can sort of work your way around and pop out the rest of the clips as they come around, and you'll see it pop out as I go around now. You just got to be careful, not too much pressure, just make sure you try and keep it even. And there we are, that's the leather panel taken out. Once the leather insert panel has been removed, you'll be able to see 2 screws which are underneath the side handle here, and you'll need to remove both of those screws, and these are the last remaining items that are fixing the door panel to the side of the car, other than of course along the top where it is it's sitting on a number of clips holding onto the body. Now with this, when you're doing it, it's best if you have a screwdriver that has some sort of magnetism to it. Reason being, you don't want the screws dropping down the side panel and getting lost. There are lots of parts in this car where if you drop something small, you're never going to get it out. The next step is to take off the mounting bolt for the seat belt located on the floor. First of all, you just need to pop off the plastic cap, and then you'll need around a 17mm socket piece to undo that. there. Now before you take the door panel off, what you actually need to do is take off this end seatbelt mechanism here, so you can disconnect this plastic piece, and then of course that will allow the whole panel to be taken off the side of the car here. You'll need to do that before removing the panel, of course. What I had to do on this side, I actually had some difficulty in popping off these clips here. So what I ended up doing was pushed out the seat belts to their full extent. I then disconnected the power to the seatbelt arm, and then I was actually able to gently pull this entire black arm out instead of taking off that clip. Now I've got an example here of one of these internal springs inside the seatbelt mechanism. Now this one's obviously broken, a common problem. These things are made of fairly brittle plastic, designed to bend, but over time of course the plastic becomes more brittle. Now this end here goes into the yoke, which holds the seatbelt through it, and this end feeds into the black arm. So I've got the arm here, and that end feeds in there. Now you can see this small piece, a small separate piece, which contains the clip. Now that actually moves and separates and runs along those tracks there and operates with that spring and pin. I presume I've got it the right way, I'm not actually sure, but you can see the little clip ends on either side. Those are the ends that pop out through those holes in this arm. So that's the thing that you need to be popping through to allow you to remove the seatbelt yoke at the end. The problem is, on a lot of these cars, these have sort of faulted over the years, and what people tend to do is fill these ends with glue so they don't keep falling off, and that's what happened in my car. Someone had used super glue, and I wondered why it wasn't coming off, and of course you can see there's a bit of glue remnants on the end of this piece. Someone had glued the end of that so it wouldn't fall off, or to make it more secure or whatever, rather than replacing the piece. So that's something that we just need to take into account. Someone may have glued it, making it difficult to remove, which meant that the whole arm had to come off. Now this arm can be purchased, but usually second hand, and it usually comes with the whole mechanism motor. So just for your reference, this is the new part that I purchased off eBay. I wasn't able to buy the arm separately, so I purchased the whole mechanism. I think it was $75 US. You can see probably the Bosch part number there. That's what you want to get if you want to get the whole mechanism with motor and everything. I only needed the arm, but this is the best I could find. And it of course includes the unbroken clip, which obviously is broken on mine. I'll be able to replace that and when I reinstall the seat belts on the car. Now when you're removing the piece here, what you want to do is get a torch and look down in there. You'll see a bolt for the top seatbelt mechanism, and there's a small gap in the edge of this piece where the bolt needs to come out as you're lifting it. So once you line that gap up on the edge of the trim piece to where the bolt is, you should be able to lift straight up and out, and your piece is removed. Looking a little closer at this panel now that I have it off, I was referring earlier to a seatbelt bolt at the top that needs to sort of be cleared when you're lifting this panel out of the car. You can see in here you've got a sort of raised plastic area and raised plastic ridge here, and then you've got this little cutout. This cutout is designed to lift up and clear the bolt when you take the panel off. So you just need to make sure that when you're taking the panel off, you're lining it up with the seatbelt bolt that's here and lifting the panel up over that bolt. Otherwise, if the bolt's back here or up here, it's only going to hit the edge and hit the plastic and break something. So it needs to clear up through the middle there. Just for everyone's reference, when you're taking or pushing up the edge of the panel, trying to get it off the side of the car, I usually get the end of a screwdriver wrapped in cloth and push up under the front corner just behind the door. This is the point where it's very tight, usually at the front there, and then trying to keep the pressure even all the way along that trim piece, so you're not putting any excess strain on any particular part. The last thing you want to do is crack something or damage the piece of trim. And remember as well, this side piece which comes up where the seatbelt comes out of, that's quite a brittle piece of plastic, so you need to be careful not to damage that either. And that'll apply whether or not you take off the door with that side trim piece connected, or like I have this other piece without it connected. You need to be careful obviously to try and take the panel off without breaking that plastic piece, which I explain later in the video. I just wanted to show everyone the different ways that the panels came off the car. So this piece is the passenger side rear panel, and as you can see, this came off with that trim piece connected. Now you'll see under here, there's a clip at the front, a metal clip, and then a plastic sort of mechanism that sits glued to the actual panel. And then at the other end here, we've got another clip holding on the trim. Now I've luckily been able to take this off with the trim without damaging anything, without breaking anything, which is a bit of a miracle. But this is different to the way that the panel came off on the driver's side. On the driver's side, you can see that it came off without that weather strip, that internal weather strip running along here. Luckily, I've been able to take that plastic piece off, or lift up the door panel and have it disconnect from the trim piece here without breaking that plastic piece there. Now I've got the little metal clip that popped off, and the plastic piece, which you would have seen earlier in the video, actually remained intact and attached to the internal trim piece. So I'll be able to reconnect that, and of course get another clip at this end, which will join it onto the trim piece when I reinstall both panels. So I've been pretty lucky in the way these panels have come off without any significant damage or any damage at all to the trim pieces. But it's just something to keep an eye on and make sure you understand when you're taking these panels off. You've got that clip there at the front of the panel, so that's at obviously the door opening end of the panel, and that's at the rear corner of the car there. So you've got one clip there, and then down the other end, another. Okay, and finally, to completely release the panel, obviously you got your belt and parts here. You want to feed those through the hole, all the way through, and your panel is completely released. Now, after taking off the passenger side rear panel, I've taken off the driver's side rear panel. Now this side has actually come off differently. When I took off the passenger side, this weather strip, this internal weather strip, actually came with the trim piece when I took it off. And you'll see here it's remained on the driver's side. But if I go over to the passenger side here, you'll see that that entire trim piece actually came off with the side trim. Once you're in here, it's also obviously a good opportunity to do a clean-up. You can see after nearly 25 years in this CL500, the dust build-up is quite phenomenal in here. So you'll be able to give that a good clean out. The purpose of me taking these side panels off is to refurbish the seat belts. I was told that because of some issues with the wear and tear you can see on the belts, the car wasn't going to pass registration. So I'm having my seat belts refurbished. They're also very lazy and retract very slowly, like a lot of belts this age. So I'm going to have both the springs in this system refurbished and then reinstalled, and hopefully it should be good for another 25 years.